Story 7, God's promise to Abram, Genesis 15:1, 6, 17, 1, 8. As Abram traveled through the land of Canaan, God spoke to him again. Abram was beginning to wonder how God's promise would come true because he and Sarai didn't have any children. How could Abram become a great nation if he had no children to carry on his name? One night, as Abram was looking at the stars in the sky, God spoke to him and said, "Look up at the sky and count the stars. If you can, so shall your descendants be." Abram couldn't count the stars, there were too many. God promised Abram that even though he was old and had no children yet, his family would grow into a great nation, just as countless as the stars. Abram believed God, and God considered him righteous because of his faith. God promised to give Abram the land of Canaan for his descendants and said, "I am the Lord who brought you out of Ur of the Chaldeans to give you this land." But Abram still had doubts. He asked, "How can I be sure that this will really happen?" God answered Abram's questions by making a special covenant with him. God asked Abram to bring some animals, and Abram cut them in two and laid the pieces apart. Then, in a dream, God showed Abram that he would keep his promise and gave Abram the covenant of the land. As Abram's faith grew, God also gave him a new name. He was no longer just Abram, but Abraham, which means father of many nations. God promised to make Abraham the father of many nations, and he also promised that Sarah would bear him a son. Abraham and Sarah laughed because they were both so old, but God said, "Is anything too hard for the Lord?" God made a covenant with Abraham, and as a sign of this promise, he told Abraham to circumcise every male in his family. This would be a sign that they were part of God's chosen people. God's covenant would last forever, and through Abraham's family, all nations would be blessed, reflection for children. Abraham believed in God's promises, even when they seemed impossible. When we trust God, even when things don't make sense, He will keep His promises to us. God's love and faithfulness are always true.